Good evening, everybody. This is the Administration and Public Works Committee. Everybody have a seat. We're going to start with citizen comment. While we're waiting, okay.
Alderman Rainey, you might want to just clarify, in the agenda, it says public comments at the end.
I know, but
Okay.
we're changing that.
No,
because
that's fine.
that
Some
was
people asked us. We
kind of a
wanted to make
typo.
sure.
We would never make you wait. All right, since there's, I don't know, people are still moving around. All right, why don't we start with the minutes? Well, let's take care of our minutes first. Approval of the minutes. I don't know, where are the minutes even? Minutes at the end? I think this new agenda thing has got, here. Let's take care of the minutes. Approval in the minutes of our regular meeting, of our last regular meeting. Could I have a motion?
Move approval?
All right. Any discussion? November 25th minutes. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We have one person signed up for public comment. Anybody else want to sign up? Okay, Mr. Vasilko? Anybody else? All right, we're going to close. Wait, you're not, oh, you want to sign up? Oh, go ahead. Just sign up. It's okay. I was going to sign up for you. Jeff Smith, you want to come up to the microphone? Thank you. Good evening.
Jeff Smith, 2724 Harrison, and I'm here to comment on the resolution on an adoption of a referendum that would purport to make Evanston's elections nonpartisan. I understand the reason for that. I think I emailed all of you before the last time this was up. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like anything has been done in the interim. And while it's good to clarify the question whether or not Evanston is or is not nonpartisan, and I'm pleased that the city staff has come to the same conclusion that I came to 3 years ago, which is that Evanston has never adopted a nonpartisan mode of government or its elections, which means that we follow the default of having people run either as independents or as members of parties, which hasn't been done in a long time. But the fiasco or debacle, I forget which word Alderman Wilson used in referring to what happened 3 years ago, is not avoided simply by a change to a nonpartisan form of government. It doesn't answer the question of what filing period people should use. It doesn't answer the question of how people should phrase their petitions. That was part of the confusion and part of the reason that actually I entered the race, and part of the reason that I sought to try and clarify the situation through ballot challenges. Really, it's time for a holistic overhaul of the Evanston election ordinance. Well, actually, there isn't an ordinance that codifies the referendum. That's part of the problem, is that you've got this silent referendum from 1992 that was adopted specifically, if we're going to be honest, so that Republicans wouldn't have a chance of electing a mayor again in what was perceived as a Democratic town. Now you're going to overlay nonpartisanship over that. We've got a city code that says we'll defer to the state election code, and doesn't refer at all to this referendum that we adopted in 1992. Yet, as we all know, you can't repeal a referendum, or maybe you can. It's unclear to anybody who's picking up Evanston law, looking at the state election code, looking at this ordinance, how they're going to have to file, when they're going to file, and what the proper wording on petitions is going to be, which means we're heading towards the same mess. Now, I understand that there's no meeting set of the City Council between now and the deadline for voting on something and sending it to the public, and I understand that if you want to do it, that you want to get it done this March, because you can't wait till November when people will already be circulating. And while that's unfortunate, I would suggest that a special meeting be set, an hour or two set aside, and really work. And I'm willing to volunteer my services. I have currently no plans to be running for anything ever again. And let's get it right. Otherwise, I mean, only by the good graces of citizens did we not have lawsuits last time flying all over the place, because our scheme's kind of unconstitutional.
Got to wrap it up.
Okay, it's kind of a big thing, and I'm sorry to take more than 3 minutes. I am available for questioning if you want to go into this further when you're discussing it. But having the real problem is having a, quote, springing primary. When most places that have a primary and runoff system, you file for the primary, and then if somebody doesn't get a majority, like in the city of Chicago, then you go to a runoff. What was perhaps well-intended here in 1992 is really backwards. The idea that you file for an election, but then there might be a primary that suddenly cuts your campaign, cuts a third of your time off your campaign unexpectedly, and when people haven't been advised of that, well, thousands of petitions have been circulated. That's a mess.
All right, thank you. Mr. Vasilko.
Jeff is such a polite guy. Really appreciate him.
So do I.
You must be exhausted. It's been a very long 2019, and this council has been burdened with all that taxing and spending. Looking at tonight's spending list, we see a lot of Christmas gifts galore, including more and more shiny new vehicles, more change orders for the favorite contractors and consultants, calls for more studies, and your favorite, more no-bid contracts and/or manipulated qualifications to secure bids for what are generally people or companies that with someone who previously worked in Evanston, worked in the city of Evanston. It is, in fact, Christmas every council meeting. I reminisce about how Bully and Andrews were so happy when they received an extra $10 million for no reason at all. And their children cried with joy. A new Mercedes under every Christmas tree. They are looking forward to this year's gift too. No penalties, fees, or fines for falling way short of their local employment and minority participation requirements. Of course, it's easy to mislead the city's MWEBE committee because it never meets. It rarely has a quorum, and its members have no backbone. You remember the promises made from Bully. You guys fell for that hook, line, and sinker. That one was one Alderman Braithwaite in particular fell for. You still have time to correct some of that damage. I hope you'll do so, but you could start with tonight by rejecting most of what's on the spending list. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go into the consent agenda for Administration and Public Works. I'll begin with the approval of the City of Evanston payroll and bills. Staff recommends our approval of the Evanston payroll for the period of November 11 through 24 in the amount of $2,805,998.59. The bills list for December 10 in the amount of $25,098,232.34, and credit card activity for the period ending October 26 in the amount of $190,011.08. I move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. We'll move on to, we're skipping A2, which includes Amazon, which is off the consent agenda. A3, Alderman Fleming.
A3 is the approval of fiscal year 2020 insurance renewals, property access liability, and excess Workers' compensation, staff recommend purchase of the outline insurance policies for fiscal year 2020 at a total cost of $643,690, which does not include the cost of excess coverage liability at this time. Staff also recommends approving the purchase of excess coverage limits at the same level of last year, total $20 million. Staff will return with those excess coverage costs for approval at the January 13, 2020 meeting. The funding will be provided by the insurance fund in the amount of $525,000, workers' comp fund in the amount of $161,000. This is for action.
I move approval.
Second.
All right, moving right along. If anybody wants any of these off,
I would like A4 off.
let us know before they're read. Okay, you want 4?
A4 off, please.
Okay, so A4 is off. Alderman Suffredin, A5.
Sure. I move item A5, which is approval of the purchase of Neptune 360 software as a service from Water Resources Incorporated. Staff recommends City Council authorize the city manager to execute a sole source agreement with Water Resources, Inc. for the period of January 1st, 2020 to December 31st, 2022, to provide the Neptune 360 software as a service in the not-to-exceed amount of $73,440. Funding is provided by the Water Production Bureau, Water Other Operations Business Unit, which has a fiscal year 2020 budget request of $373,300. This is for action.
Second.
Okay, no discussion. Alderman Simmons.
Madam Chair,
A6.
could you remove A6 and A7, please?
Yes, sir. A6 and A7 off the consent agenda. We'll discuss it after the consent agenda.
A8.
A8.
A8, contract award with Jones Lang LaSalle Americas for city real estate assets evaluation. Staff recommends City Council authorize the city manager to execute a contract with Jones Lang LaSalle Americas to provide Phase 1 of the city's real estate asset and valuation services related to RFP 947 in the amount of $128,938. Funding will be provided from the 2019 General Miscellaneous Business Operations Contingencies, which has a balance of $150,000, all of which is remaining. A detailed funding breakdown is attached. This is for action.
Second.
All right, moving right along. Next item is A9, a contract award with Otis Elevator. We're being asked to recommend to the council that the city manager execute a contract for filter plant freight elevator modernization with Otis Elevator Company in the amount of $231,944. This is for action. I move approval.
Second.
All right, hearing no discussion. Next item is A10, Alderman Fleming.
A10 is the contract award with Hallett and Sons Expert Moving Incorporated for Robert Crown relocation services. This was done at bid 1559. Staff recommend City Council authorize the manager to execute a contract with Hallett and Sons Expert Moving in the amount not to exceed $46,494. The cost includes a base bid of $42,494 and a contingency of $4,000. Funding is available from the Crown Construction Fund for action.
Second? No discussion. Next item, A11, Alderman Suffredin.
I move item A11, a contract award with Kimley Horn and Associates for the Ridge Avenue Traffic Signal Intersections Improvement Project. Staff recommends that City Council authorize the city manager to execute a contract with Kimley Horn and Associates to provide Phase 1 and Phase 2 engineering services for the Ridge Avenue Traffic Signal Intersections Improvement Project in the amount of $185,953. This contract will be funded by the Highway Safety Improvement Program grant funds in the amount of $138,380 and the city's capital improvement program 2019 general obligation bonds in the amount of $47,603 for action.
Second.
Alderman Simmons, A12.
A12, sole source contract with Great Lakes Plumbing and Heating for HVAC maintenance services at the Robert Crown Community Center and Library. Staff recommends that City Council authorize the city manager to execute a one-year sole source contract with Great Lakes Plumbing and Heating to provide HVAC services for Robert Crown Community Center and Library in the amount of $30,825. Funding for the purchase will be from the Crown Construction Fund. It's for action.
Second.
Okay. A13 is change order number 1. City Council is being asked to authorize the manager to execute change order number 1 to the construction contract agreement for the Main Street Corridor Improvement Project with Landmark Contractors in the amount of $75,754.48. This will increase the total contract amount from the current price of $2,062,822.08 to $2,138,576.56. The change order also extends the contract completion time until May 30, 2020. Funding is from Capital Improvement Program. This is for action. I move approval.
Second.
Alderman Fleming, 14, A14.
A14, change order number 1 with Hecker and Company Incorporated for the Emerson Street Traffic Signals Project from bid 1504. Staff recommends City Council authorize City Manager to execute change order number 1 to the construction contract agreement with Hecker and Company Incorporated for the Emerson Street Traffic Studies Project. This change order does not modify the contract price. It extends the contract completion date by 243 days from November 30th till July 31st. There is no funding required for this change order for action.
Second. Alderman Sufferman, 15.
Item A15 is change order number 1 with Boulder Contractors for Ocean Street Water Supply Connection. Staff recommends the City Council authorize the City Manager to execute change order number 1 to the construction contract agreement for the Ocean Street Water Supply Connection with Boulder Contractors in the amount of $14,361 and for an additional 38 days. This will increase the total contract amount from the current contract price of $2,708,514.24 to $2,722,875.24 and extend the current completion date from April 24, 2020 to June 1, 2020. Funding of this project is from the Water Fund, which has a fiscal year 2019 budget allocation of $1,600,000 and a fiscal year 2020 budget allocation of $2,600,000. The cost of the project will be covered over the 2 years. Evanston will recover all costs associated with the water meter and pipeline, as these costs will be included in the liquid water rate calculation for action.
Second.
Alderman Simmons.
A16, Storm Water Management Guide. Staff recommends the City Council accept and place on file the 2019 Stormwater Management Guide for action. Accept and place on file.
Second.
This is not my favorite one. I'm going to take A17 off the consent agenda so that we can discuss it later. A18 is Resolution 127R19, lease for 25 studio spaces with various tenants at the Noyes Cultural Arts Center. These are 12-month lease agreements for studios at the center. Revenues are deposited into the Noyes Cultural Arts Business Unit. I move approval.
Second.
Okay. A19, Alderman Fleming.
Resolution 128-R-19, lease for studio space with Mudlark Theater at Noyes Cultural Arts Center. The staff recommend this resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for a 7-month renewal lease term with Mudlark Theater. Revenues are deposited into the Noyes Cultural Arts Business Unit account for action.
Second. A20, Alderman Sufferman.
Item A20 is Resolution 129R19, a lease for studio space for Evanston Children's Choir at the Noyes Cultural Arts Center. Staff recommends City Council adoption of Resolution 129R19, authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for a 9-month renewal lease term with the Evanston Children's Choir. Revenues are deposited into the Noyes Cultural Arts Business Unit account for action.
Second. Next.
A21, Resolution 131R19, reauthorizing the City of Evanston to enter into an agreement with Cook County Assessor's Office for access to a geographic information system. Staff recommends City Council adoption of Resolution 131R19, authorizing the City Manager to sign an agreement with the Cook County Assessor's Office for access to GIS data for action.
Second.
A22 is Resolution 132R19. We're being asked to recommend to the council adoption of this resolution, which authorizes the manager to execute a second amendment to the lease at city-owned property at 1804 Maple Avenue to bring the lease terms in line with with House Bill HB 1438 for recreational use from licensed dispensaries and to change the tenants party PharmaCann LLC to a related entity, MME Evanston Retail LLC. This is for action.
Second.
Okay. A23, Alderman Fleming.
Resolution, A23 is Resolution 134-R-19, a 6-month lease agreement with GTC Main Street Incorporated for space in the City of Evanston parking lot 15. And Resolution 135-R-19, a 6-month lease agreement with 706 Main Street LLC for space in the City of Evanston parking lot 15. Staff recommend adoption of these two resolutions, authorizing the city manager to enter into a 6-month lease with GTC Main Street and 706 Main Street LLC respectively for space in City of Evanston parking lot 15. Portion of the revenue from parking meter revenue and space lot rentals to be made as rent payments for these premises will be made from the parking fund service agreement for action.
Second, Alderman Suffredin.
Item A24,
24.
ordinance 153-019, amending Title 10, Chapter 11, Section 10, Schedule X, C, the 2-hour limited parking by amending Bryant Street. The Transportation Parking Committee and staff recommend City Council adoption of ordinance 153-019, amending Title, all of it, to extend Bryant Avenue from Central Street to the dead end to Residential Parking District H for introduction.
Second,
Could you please remove A25?
yes, sir. A25 is removed. We'll discuss it after the,
And A26 also, sorry.
and A26. 25 and 26 are off. We'll discuss after the consent agenda. A27,
A27, ordinance 174-019, amending City Code Section 1011-7, Schedule 7, loading zones to add 1903 Church Street. Staff recommends City Council adoption of ordinance 174-019, amending City Code Section 1011-7, adding 30-minute loading zones at 1903 Church Street. Alderman Ruth Simmons requests suspension of the rules for introduction and action.
don't you remember? No.
Oh, yes. Yes, Alderman Ruth Simmons is requesting suspension of the rules for introduction and action at the December 9th, 2019 City Council meeting.
Second.
You still feel that way, right?
Yes, I do.
And I would agree with that. Anybody have a problem with that? Hearing none? All right. Second. Moving right along. A28, the council is being asked to, the Liquor Commissioner is recommending the council adopt this ordinance, 175-019, amending Class D liquor license from 60 to 61 for La Maquina Restaurante LLC, doing business as the same La Maquina Cafe, 1620 Orrington Avenue. Alderman Fisk requests suspension of the rules for introduction and action at the December 9 meeting. That would be today. I move approval.
Second.
And accept her recommendations. Okay? A29, Alderman Fleming.
A29 is local ordinance 176-0-19, increasing the number of Class B liquor licenses for League of Creative Musicians, LLC, doing business as Evanston Space at 1245 Chicago Avenue. The local commissioner recommends we adopt this ordinance, amending Class B liquor license from 0 to 1 at Space, which is located at 1245 Chicago Avenue. Alderman Nguyen requests suspension of the rules for introduction and action at the December 9, 2019 City Council meeting for introduction and action.
Second. All right. Alderman Suffredin, A30.
Item A30 is ordinance 148-019, amending City Code Title 8, Chapter 4, Municipal Solid Waste, and Chapter 4.5, Municipal Solid Waste Hauling License. Staff recommends City Council adoption of ordinance 148-019, amending City Code Title 8, Chapter 4, Municipal Solid Waste, and Chapter 4.5, Municipal Solid Waste Hauling License. This is for action.
Oh, okay,
Second.
Okay, all right. This is on the council agenda. I'm sorry, I'm working off the council agenda. This is for action, so let me just consult with our staff member. we're finished with our agenda. These are, the rest of these items are on the council agenda, which I'm reading from. So, anyway, so we've done our job here. Any comments? We have no new business, so we're going to move I'm going to move the entire consent agenda. I move the entire consent agenda. Can I have a second?
Second.
All right, and we're going to call the roll. Staff, would you like to call the roll? So I feel that we should. We got a lot of money going here. Look at us. Anna.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Sufferton. Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Okay, so now you're going to tell me what we took off. I marked most of those. All right, so the first item that was off the consent agenda is, Alderman Fleming, would you like to move A4, the replacement vehicles?
Sure. A4 is approval of purchase of 12 replacement vehicles for various city departments. The staff recommend council approve the purchase of 12 replacement vehicles for various city departments in 2020. I will not go through reading all of them, but funding for the purchase of these vehicles will be from fiscal year 2020 equipment replacement fund with a fiscal year budget of $2 million for action.
Second.
All right, so I removed this because I had a couple of questions. At one of our previous meetings, we talked.
Hold on,
Oh, sorry.
Alderman Fleming, so Sean can come up to.
I'm not sure we had a motion to approve. We had a second, but not a motion to approve.
Oh, I move approval.
Okay, second, just to get that clear. Okay. Go ahead, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
sorry. So we spoke about these, selling and auctioning our vehicles, and myself and Alderman Ruth Simmons asked if we could sell these or offer them for sale to local businesses or staff or residents. So I see that several of these are listed, as staying within the city because they're in good shape, and then I assume the other ones will be auctioned. So I had a question about how we can move past the auction if possible and offer them to staff and residents. And then my other question is if you can explain, I think aside from the hybrid ones, the vehicles that say they're in good shape, so they'll be repurposed within the city, why they are being repurposed and not just continue use where they are.
Sure. Madam Chair, members of the committee, Sean Cholik, Facilities and Fleet Manager. So I'll start with the auctioning items that we had discussed at one of the last meetings. So I've been currently working with legal to discuss and explore some of the options for if we can go about this a different way, if we can offer these vehicles for auction to either city employees or to members of the community. And it's a little tricky, and I'll ask you to jump in if I am not explaining something properly. But basically, the city code has sections in there that talk about auctioning of the vehicles and also meeting a standard of selling the items for the highest value possible. So essentially, that would be through an auction. We can auction things internally as a city if we wanted to, but we don't have the staff. We don't feel we have the staff to administer something like that. The other thing that was of concern to us is that many of these vehicles that get auctioned, they're not safe enough or they're not suitable enough. They're past their useful life, so we don't repurpose them into the fleet for less strenuous uses. So we have concerns too that we would be offering them and auctioning them internally as a city, whereas if they go to one of the auction houses, most of the people that pick them up for stripping of parts, or they have to sink considerable amounts of money into them to repair them and restore them. So it's our recommendation that we don't get into the business of auctioning it ourselves, but instead we would advise that any community members or city employees that are interested in purchasing a vehicle go through the auctioning process with America's Auto Auction that we currently use.
So I appreciate that. I guess I have another question, though.
Sure.
So some of these, I'm not a mechanic, but some I would imagine are drivable.
Yes.
They're not all just good for scrap metals. And in terms of us auctioning, I realize we don't have the wherewithal, but if it is our city code that says we have to get the top dollar versus we can send it to auction for top dollar, or if it's in safe, reusable condition, we can offer it, through some kind of internal website to our city staff. I mean, it's similar to what we do with the apartment, right? We have over here, we offer it, we manage it. I mean, it's one apartment. I imagine these are not, all 12 of these cars would not be suitable for resale within our community, but some might be. And so I would like us to continue to work on that.
Absolutely.
I don't know that people necessarily interested in the cars, but if we can figure out a way to do it manageable, safe, there's all kind of technology out there and websites out there that I feel like we could utilize for this, to make these available to citizens or small business owners in our town before we just send them off for scrap parts.
Sure.
So I would like you to continue to look at that, and we can continue the conversation in the next year.
Absolutely. We'll continue to work with legal to see what kind of options are out there. We have explored some online options too for auctioning. We're getting ready to test some of those shortly, but we want to see how they work and what kind of bugs we run into and such. So, but we'll discuss it more with legal, and we will find out what other options there are.
Okay, and then my second question was about the cars that we are repurposing here. So if they're not up to par to be used in their current operation, how do we decide that they are up to par to be used elsewhere within the city?
Sure. So there's a number of vehicles that we use for emergency response, such as police vehicles that, they're subject to a lot of wear and tear from idle time. They just take a beating. So we don't necessarily, we like to make sure we replace some of the emergency vehicles with newer vehicles so that they're reliable. They won't be down in the shop for large amounts of time. So we take these older vehicles and we repurpose them to more administrative uses, things like the inspectors, other office staff that might be using them. We try to repurpose them into less strenuous uses. That way we continue to use the vehicle for its full life, but we don't risk the chance of losing them during an emergency circumstance, such as police or fire response. You're welcome.
All right. All those in favor of recommending to the council the approval of purchase of 12 replacement vehicles for various city departments, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next item is A6. Alderman Sufferton, approval of parking garage rate increases.
I move item A6, which is approval of parking garage rate increases. Staff requests city council approval of amended rates at the 3 city-owned parking garages effective February 1st, 2020 due to the state of Illinois implementing a new parking tax. Proposed increases include raising the monthly permit rates by $5 to $10 and hourly rates by $1 with the first hour remaining free. This is for action.
Okay. Second.
I don't even have a question. I just want to vote no. Thank you, though.
All right. All right. Any discussion among the committee? Other committee?
I will just say that I also had planned to vote no, as I did in the budget discussion for reasons I discussed during the budget. However, because we only have 4 members here, if I vote no, I'm not sure if it'll go forward. So I will vote yes for the sake of getting it to the city council. Although I don't agree with it, I do understand it's already set in our budget, and I don't have a replacement fund source for it.
Yeah. So that the council can at least weigh in on it. Okay. All right. All those in favor of recommending approval of the parking garage rate increases, say to the council, say aye. 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 Any opposed?
No.
All right. Moving along. Next item, A7. Alderman Sufferton.
Sure. Item A7 is approval of a 1-year contract with Phoenix Security to provide 2 security guards for the Lorraine Morton Civic Center. Staff recommends City Council authorize the city manager to enter into a 1-year contract consistent with the terms of Phoenix Security's proposal for 2 security guards. The security guards will work staggered shifts at the Lorraine Morton Civic Center during the hours of 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. and 12 p.m. until 8 p.m., Monday through Friday, providing coverage during normal working hours and during night meetings that will take place in the Civic Center. The cost will be approximately $113,400 for 2 guards at $29.50 an hour. The contract will take effect January 2nd, 2020. Staff will check in with Phoenix quarterly to ensure the city's needs are being met. Funding will be from the City Manager's Office Service Agreements Fund in the fiscal year 2020 budget. This is for action.
Second.
Same thing, I just want to vote no.
I have a question. Chief, I know you addressed this, I think, with me, but can you, for the public, these security officers, will they be going through de-escalation and mental health crisis training?
Yes, ma'am. We're going to provide the Phoenix security officers with a lot of training that we do internally and also through specialized training facilities.
All right, thank you.
Do they already have any training?
Yes, most of the officers that'll be here are already police officers.
Will they be our police officers or retired?
They're retired police officers and some police officers current from other jurisdictions.
They're going to be carrying weapons?
I believe so, yes, ma'am. They're already certified police officers.
Could you, in a few sentences, state a case for this, the need?
I think it's public concern as well as staff concern about the safety of this building. We've had a serious incident here in the past prior to the state of the world today. And I just think it's appropriate for people to come to work and feel safe in their environment. And I'm here to help them achieve that goal.
It's a little, the note is a little confusing. It says for evening meetings, and then it says up to 8 p.m. But you mean like if our meeting runs till midnight, there's going to be a police officer in the a security officer in the building?
Yeah, we'll work out the logistical issues with respect to times and coverage as we move for approval.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All righty. Approval of one-year contract with Phoenix Security to provide 2 security guards for the Lorraine Morton Civic Center. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Right. We'll move that along to the council. Next item, what's next off? My next one that is marked A17, and I pulled that off. Yep. Resolution 120R19, referendum for nonpartisan elections. This is more an omnibus resolution, and I couldn't agree with Jeff Smith more on this. And believe me, nobody was more affected with this issue than I was back in 1993. So I'm not sure that we're able to fix this tonight. I mean, because we do need to have, we need to set some standards for the petition and for, when petitions are due, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't think we're ready to do that. And I don't like the way this statement is written, that nonpartisan or partisan elections. Is that what we're asking people? Are we giving them a choice? Or are we just saying, do you want nonpartisan elections? Whatever people want. I don't really care. But I think when we go to a referendum, we need to make certain that we get a very definitive answer, regardless of what the answer is. So I don't know if we need a Rules Committee meeting to come up with some answers, but this is something that our staff has brought to us, and I don't think that we've had enough input on this. So that's my opinion. Anybody else?
I have a question.
I agree.
So
Alderman Fleming?
Jeff made a very compelling statement. However, I thought that, and not that I want to move forward with something that's wrong, but didn't we have a certain amount of time to approve this to get it on the ballot? I mean, I'm fine with it going to Rules Committee. I'm actually quite interested in even having some input from some election attorneys or what have you, but I also I thought I remembered that it had to go for the next election. We had to get it passed by a certain date in order to get it on the ballot, and so I want to make sure we don't miss that date, so we don't have more problems at the next election.
Do you have the number of days?
Chairman Rainey, members of the committee, yes, that's correct. I checked with the Cook County Board of Elections, and the city council would need to pass the resolution by December 31st for it to appear on the next election.
And did we check with Cook County Board of Elections or an election attorney about the language that we put forth in this?
They have not reviewed the proposed ordinance, the proposed resolution referendum language. The referendum language it's very similar to other jurisdictions that have passed similar legislation.
But more important are the details of the petition, you know, those nitty-gritty clerical issues that, you know, can screw everybody up, so. I don't know. So,
So we make-
why don't
our
we send
choices
this to
are-
the council, huh?
So our choices are to miss the deadline or make a decision now without all the information?
I don't think we have to miss the deadline, but let's send it to the council
Okay.
and see what they say. City Clerk, did you want to weigh in on this? I'll acknowledge you.
If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer. I actually was coming, there's someone who wants to give public comment.
The only concern I have is the same as Jeff Smith had. I'm not so concerned about the wording of the referendum, you know, we can figure that out. But my concern, I mean, by the 31st, we can craft that.
Yeah.
But I am concerned about the petition and how, you know, what petition language there's going to be, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, so, I
Do
think,
we worry about that after we get the referendum taken care of? Maybe
no,
that's when we
well, it depends on what problem we're trying to solve. And for me, the problem that I wanted to, there are two problems. The first problem was that we were running nonpartisan elections when we hadn't officially designated ourselves as a nonpartisan form of government. But then the other problem that Jeff alluded to was that we have this kind of hodgepodge of filing periods where the mayoral candidates have one filing period and then the aldermanic and clerk candidates have another filing period, which caused in the last election a lot of confusion. And for instance, this will not solve that issue. This resolution, I did recommend, a potential solve to it. It's not the only option, but it was a runoff election that would bring everything into alignment. If we did nothing, it would also essentially bring things into alignment where there would be one filing period for the mayoral candidates and the council candidates. Only you'd have to run as partisan candidates. You can make up your own party or choose an existing party. But this resolution will not completely address the issues that we had in the last election. It will provide clarity, though.
But what if people voted no?
If people vote no, then we are a
We're
part.
back where we started, right?
We're back when we know. The last time we did not know where we were, and now we will at least know that we are nonpartisan, that we are a partisan form of government if folks were to vote no, and we'd know what the filing periods are for a partisan form of government. And there would be a primary for the aldermanic candidates if.
But I'm not sure why we had this horrible mess the last election, because for years and years and years and years, we never had that mess. And, I don't know why.
Well, I think it's just because folks looked into the rules and found out that we were operating outside of them. And then folks called us on it, and it caused an issue for a lot of candidates who are filing, and were challenged as a result.
Yeah. Why don't we just get rid of primaries altogether? Why do we have to have a primary? Is there a
We
law
still-
that says we have to have a primary?
So the law does say we have to have a mayoral primary. There's a 1991, 1992 referendum that was passed that said that, you know, if
Right.
there's, yeah, that created a mayoral primary. We could simply do away with the mayoral primary. That would be another
Yeah.
solution to bring.
But why do we, but when did the aldermanic primary come up?
So
where
right
did-
now, there is no, the only way that an aldermanic primary is triggered now is if there are 4 or more candidates
Or
who
more
file.
candidates.
Well, actually, that's not true. Under a nonpartisan form of government, the only way a primary would be triggered if there were 4 or more candidates who filed, and that's the way we've operated. But with what we truly have, which is a partisan form of government, a primary is just automatically triggered if 2 folks file, you know, if you and someone else were to run as Democrats, there'd be
The
a primary.
cost of that is just ridiculous. I mean, there shouldn't be that. It precludes a lot of people running, the cost of a primary. So that's my concern.
That's an opinion.
All right,
yeah.
so this is not going to solve any of that, so I get that. All right, I think my request would be we send this to the council and let everybody worry about it. I mean, I think other people should weigh in on this.
Do you have a recommendation?
Yes, so my recommendation would have been to include a second resolution as well, which would create, which would bring parity to the mayoral filing period and the rest of the filing periods. That would have been my recommendation. With the way we have it now, honestly, I think my recommendation would be to I
Can't
think
we
we have to
amend this and add that the filing period be the same as the mayoral candidate?
Well, that's really a question for legal because they'd have to draft those documents and then the clerk's office would have to certify it. So, we'd have to do all of that before the 31st. So maybe Hugh can chime in.
So we could amend it tonight.
That would be a bit of maybe a larger change that because it wasn't on the agenda, maybe an Open Meetings Act issue. But Hugh can weigh in.
That would be a larger change, and I think it would be actually a separate question.
Yeah, it would be a separate question.
That
Yeah.
would need to be added.
Who would be against it? I mean, so why don't we do it and then have a special meeting like next week?
That would be my recommendation.
Okay.
All right.
May I say one thing? So, and that's fine, but I guess my statement as we talk about this is that, the clerk has talked about this for a long time, and he is our election, not judge, but expert. Official. So it would have been nice for him to have been consultant in this process so that the documentation we were looking at was a little more thorough. I will leave it at that, so then we didn't have to come back for a special meeting or be hashing this out when, at least myself, I'm not an election official, so I'm not really sure. I'd like us to do it the right way, but I don't know exactly what language needs to be included for that to happen.
Well,
So-
we all knew about it, and we all had access to him. And
No, but
now
in terms
we're talking
of
to him.
staff,
All
and
right,
staff
let's,
should have brought him in for
All
this.
right. No, let's not start throwing people under the bus. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to move that we recommend this to the council and have a good discussion there. Do you have a second?
And I did just want to note that someone wanted to make public comment for this committee. So that was why I came in originally.
Okay.
If at
Somebody-
the end, if there's
Because I asked
time.
about public comment. Anybody else?
There's one other person.
Okay, all right, well, when
When you get around to that, yes, thank you.
Because we're going to take this to the council, I hope. I hope I can get the vote.
Yes, it's not on this issue, I apologize. It's on another issue.
Oh, okay, all right. I'll ask about it after we take care of this. Okay. All right. I'm going to move one more time. This is Resolution 120R19, a referendum for nonpartisan elections. Recommend to the council approval of this resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And did the seconder say aye?
Aye.
Aye,
Yes.
okay. Any opposed? Okay, it's going to the council, everybody stay tuned for a very interesting discussion. All right, next is A18, what? A25, I'm sorry. And who took that up? Let's see. A25, parking tax in the city-owned garage. A25.
That's me.
Alderman Sufferman.
I move ordinance 155-019, increasing the parking tax in the city-owned garage at Sherman Plaza. Staff recommends city council adoption of ordinance 155-019, increasing the parking tax on monthly permits in the city-owned Sherman Plaza parking garage from $50 to $60, effective on February 1st, 2020. This corresponds to an increase in the monthly parking rate from $125 to $130 monthly at the Sherman Plaza garage. Parking tax is deposited in the city's general fund. This is for introduction.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of recommending ordinance 155-019 to the council, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay. Moving right along. Any just Amazon? Okay. Item A26, resident-only parking districts. Alderman Sufferman?
Sure. I move ordinance 170-019, amending Title 10, Chapter 11, Section 18, Schedule 18G, residence parking only districts, adding a portion of Lincoln Street. Transportation and Parking Committee and staff recommend City Council adoption of ordinance 170-019, amending Title 10, Chapter 11, Section 10, residential exemption parking district 7, to add the homes in the 2200 block of Lincoln Street. This is for introduction.
Second.
And then I'm just going to, real quick on this one. Or Mike, sorry, I know this particular stretch is narrow and it creates a problem with driveways for residents, but I just want to say, like, we've got to find a way to get some more available parking near Metra stations. This extends the prohibited commuter parking zone a good 5-6 blocks away from the Central Street Metro station, and the people who need to utilize some form of parking who pay the Evanston wheel tax need to be accounted for. And I know you're working on it, but it's a real problem for people who live outside of walking distance from the Metro, but still are Evanston residents. And I hope we can come up with some way to preserve resident parking, but also allow for Evanston residents to park on the public streets as they commute to the city, largely to work to pay the taxes that we continue to heap on them. So I know you're working on it, and I just want to say that. And I think that this is kind of pushing the problem one block farther west, and I think in a year's time, we'll be talking about the 2300 block of Lincoln, and if we don't come up with something comprehensive.
Understood. We're currently trying to renegotiate our contract that we have with Northwestern Parking Lot on Ashland and Central Street. We lease 100 spaces that we offer for permit, and we have less than 50% sold for permits at this time, so we're trying to renegotiate our lease with NU to allow pay-as-you-go daily parking there to offset commuter parking for the Metro as well.
Fantastic. I think I saw Dave Davis here earlier, so if you need help facilitating that negotiation, let me know.
Awesome. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. All those in favor of recommending this item to the council, say aye.
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 No.
Opposed?
No.
Okay. Now we have, give me the, okay. This is item A2, approval of BMO Harris Amazon credit card activity. Staff recommends we ask the council to approve this activity for the period ending October 26 in the amount of $4,521.26. This is for action. I move approval.
Second.
Well, okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention?
I abstain.
Okay, thank you. We'll recommend this to the council. We have one person who wasn't here in time to sign up, who wants to speak at citizen comment. Who might that be? Oh, okay.
Elliot Zation, 9th Ward. I figured this might be the appropriate time to make this request. I'm not going to make a speech. We haven't heard anything further about what's happening for the selection of the city manager. And I think it'd be very apparent to a lot of people that we need to move ahead on that. We need to know how it's going to be done. We need to know what the council's priorities are in choosing a new city manager. And we'd like to know that there's going to be public input in that process. I think one suggestion was made that a person like Bennett Johnson be appointed to the selection committee. So all I'm asking for is to tell your colleagues that we would like to have some kind of report about what's going on, some kind of timeline, so that we'll know that at some point we actually will be selecting a new city manager. It's a very important position, as you're well aware. Thanks very much.
Mr. Zashin, I can give you a quick report. On this coming Friday, there are going to be interviews of the companies who have answered the requests for qualifications to do the job search. So there are going to be interviews of those companies. So as soon as we get a company hired to do the search, and as soon as they do a search, then all of that kind of thing is going to start happening. So we don't have a company yet to do the search, so
All right,
that's
no,
the latest
I
news.
appreciate that. What we'd like to know is like, how long are they going to take? And
We'll tell you that
Yeah.
as soon as we get the company.
Good. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Where are the interviews being taken? Those should be public, no?
Several of them are going to be on the phone, so they're not going to be public. And they're not going to be a violation of the Open Meetings Act, because there aren't going to be more aldermen than, yes, would you like to add to that?
No, I don't have anything to add to that. I wanted to add that last week at City Council, I believe maybe whenever the last City Council meeting was, Northwestern liquor license class was supposed to be directed back to APW. I noticed it is not on the agenda for APW, but it is on the council agenda. So somehow in our new agenda management software, it got missed to go back to APW. So I just wanted you to know and the public to know that that is still on for discussion tonight at full council, but didn't go back to APW. So maybe the council will decide to send it back to APW, or maybe we'll just discuss it tonight, whichever. Just wanted to make everybody aware.
I think because it's so late, we got such a late start tonight, the committee probably has no problem opening up to the full council. So thank you for reminding us of that. All right, hearing no other issues for the committee, we are adjourned.
Planning and development will begin in